Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. I'm going to give people a minute here to get logged in / join us. Training lasts about an hour and a half to an hour and 45. Basically, depends on load times. We do record the trainings and we keep them here on our YouTube channel. So you can always come back and view the complete training if you can't stay for the whole time. Also, it's a convenient way for you to grab the link and send it to colleagues who may also need to go through the training or just watch it on your schedule. Feel free to make use of the chat feature within YouTube to ask any questions as we go through this. And I guess without any further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So we have our dash login page here, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here from the virtualpbx.com website. Just look for the blue bar going across the top of the web page, and there'll be a login link there. Now, in order to get logged in, we do need 3 pieces of information. We need your username, which is typically your email address, your password, which the system would have generated for you or your system admin created for you, and then lastly, the account name, which is typically your company name, right? Or if you put it under your name, then be your name. The main thing to know about the username, right, for the email address should be in all lowercase. Everything else is typically case sensitive. If for some reason you don't have your password, down here towards the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, we have your forgot your info link. And you click on that, it flips it around. We still need your email address, right? That's your unique identifier. And then we need either one of these 2 remaining pieces of information. Right? So either the account name or a phone number that's on the account, meaning one of your customer-facing phone numbers. Then you would click on Reset Password, and the system would send you an email, right? It basically has a link to let you log in and change your password. It will then log you back out. You come back here, you enter in your email address, the password you just created, your account name. Up to you if you want to click on Remember Me. I do recommend bookmarking this page just so you have easy access to get back here instead of hunting around for it or having to remember to type in the URL. Now, I'm logging into a test account that I've logged into regularly, so by default, the system is sending me here to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, you're not going to start off here. You're instead going to start off on your account page. Now, you can always get to your account page, by clicking on your name up here at the top right, and you get here. And the main thing people do is click on their password to change their password. That's by far the most common thing. Right, so if you need to change your own password, you click on your name, change it here. If you need to change someone else's password, you would do that under the Users tab. Now, that first time logging in, the dash wizard comes up with pop-ups telling you what certain things are. Because we're an admin, we also have access to the account level settings. Typically, the most common thing that's changed here is the time zone. So you have the correct time zone for your company headquarters. Now, as I mentioned, this is a test account, so I only have limited options here. For you, you're a live account, right? So you're going to have a billing section underneath where it says user. That's where you see things like your current plan that you're on. You can see invoices, update your payment information, and even update who your billing contact person is. Now, our billing system is currently going through an upgrade, so a lot of this information you probably don't have access to right now. So you'd want to contact our billing team, and they could help you update your credit card information. Once you're done here, go ahead and click Close over towards the top right, and then you'll be back here on the dashboard page. That dash wizard, the pop-ups, will again come up here telling you what certain things are. It will also come up under the Groups tab and the Users tab. Now, again, up here at the top, you can click on your name to get back to that account page. For most of you, to the right of your name, you will have a DND toggle for Do Not Disturb. Right? I don't have it because my user is part of an ACD queue. Right? ACD queues and the Do Not Disturb feature do not work well together. So once a user is assigned to be a member of the queues, the D&D toggle is removed from their page up here at the top. Next up, you got the question mark icon, right? The help icon. Now, right now it shows 4 options. Typically, it shows 3 by default. The 4th one is an optional option. So first up, we have chat with us. This opens up the chat window at the bottom right of your browser, so you can chat with one of our support staff who will help you with whatever feature you're working with. To learn more, this will open up a new tab and take you to support.virtualpbx.com, so you can see the various support guides that we have available. Oops. Then we have the online store. This opens up a new tab and takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like VoIP phones or a router, etc. And then the optional one is the web phone. This only shows up until, once you have added a web phone device to your user. And typically by the next time you log in, it will show up here. Once you have it here, it opens up a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It will ask you to log in, and it uses your dash login information and allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Right, the mobile versions of those browsers are not supported. They might work, they might not. Right, then here we have the hamburger icon or 3 horizontal lines, right, menu icon. This takes you to other dash features. Now for the training, we will primarily be here on the dashboard. That takes up the vast majority of the training, but we will touch on these other areas here towards the end of the training. And then lastly, we have the logout icon. All right, here in the center, right, we have your dashboard. So total users, these are the number of people who make and receive calls on your account. Typically, most of our plans are based on a per user basis, meaning the more users you add, the higher your bill is going to be. Then I have my total devices. I have 37 currently, and then a little breakdown here. First up, I have a soft phone. This is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? This means it is a VoIP device. Right? VoIP, voice over internet protocol, it just means a device that uses your internet connection to make and receive a call. Now the soft phone here, this could be the VirtualPBX soft phone. This could be someone else's soft phone app. It's just a general bucket. Then we have SIP phone. This is a piece of hardware. It's a physical phone, it sits on a desk, typically connected via Ethernet cable to your router, then gets out on the internet to make and receive calls. Now, VoIP, right? So VoIP phones in general, right? That's a very broad category. SIP is a subtype, right? That's a particular kind of VoIP device that our system uses. So if your VoIP phone that you have at your desk does not say it's SIP compatible or SIP compliant, it is likely not going to work with us. So if you're shopping, that's one of the things to look for. Then here, I've got web phone, right? That browser-based, Chrome Firefox device. And then the only other one of note on this account would be the cell phones, which most of us are familiar with. Now down here, it says I have unregistered devices, currently 2. And this is in relation to my SIP phones, the physical devices. Total numbers, these are the number of phone numbers I have on my account, 33, which is a lot. And we have a couple breakdowns here. Now, your account will include at least some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price, right? So let's say your account, when you signed up, says you can have 15 phone numbers. You can add up to 15 numbers, port in up to 15 numbers, right? Whatever combination, up to 15 total phone numbers. You're not going to get an additional charge no matter when you do that, right? Now, once you go over 15, then on your next statement, you're going to have an overage for the number of phone numbers you have over your allotment. Now, this first breakdown here is assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? Assigned number means you're using it. Someone can dial that number and, expect to speak to somebody or be sending a fax or join a conference. Right? Spare number, it's on your account, so it counts towards your allotment. You're just not currently using it. So for instance, let's say you're getting ready for holiday promotions. and you grabbed a toll-free number ahead of time, right? The promotion isn't live yet, so you don't want to put the number in service because you don't want to get calls on it that aren't relevant to the promotion, but you have it, and like you're preparing your marketing materials for it. That would be why you would have a number in spare numbers. Likewise, if you took a number out of service, let's say, you had an employee who had a number assigned directly to them and they retired, right? You would remove the user and then that number would become a spare number, right? Until you decide to reuse it or remove it from the account. Next, we have US toll-free and US DID. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? It's an 800 number, 888-877, all the way down to 833. And US DID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So if you have a number in Los Angeles, California, right, like 310 or 323 area code, many more, right? That would show up as it under the US DID. Same as if you had a number in Dallas, Texas, or Elmira, New York, Chicago, etc. You can have international phone numbers if you're interested. You're going to want to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They will need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a phone number in. They will let you know if it's possible for us to get a number in that location and if there are any additional requirements. Those additional requirements, that comes from the country in question. All right. Conference bridges, this just means I have enabled conferencing on 3 of my users so they can host or moderate a conference. Now we're going to go over here to the top right for where it says this main number box. So these 5 phone numbers, they all behave in the same fashion. They're all going to have the same main greeting. You can obviously have multiple main numbers if you want. You can have none if you want as well. Then I have conference number. I currently have 1 assigned. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. This is the phone number everyone dials to reach my conference rooms, right? Whether they're my staff members, my vendors, my clients, they all will dial this number. Then the system will prompt them to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The fax box number, you can only have 1 fax box number. This is your inbound fax number. All right, so then we've got the company directory. This lets you download a CSV file to your device, and that will show everyone's names, their extension numbers, and their devices. The cell phone directory here, this also lets you download a file. This is for use specifically with the desktop version of the VirtualPBX soft phone, right? So on a Windows or Mac PC, if you have our VirtualPBX soft phone app on those either one of those platforms, you can download this file, upload it to your soft phone app. This will allow you to see the status of the other soft phone users. So like if my colleague Mike happens to have a soft phone, but he also has a Yealink phone and a Polycom phone, right? On my soft phone, I can only tell if he's using his soft phone or not, right? If he's on his Yealink phone, I don't know it. So if everyone's just using the VirtualPBX soft phone, it's a good way to know their status, right? Their presence. Store discount code, just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in that store.virtualpbx.com site. Save you a little money on hardware. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. This is used in a couple things. One, if you're going to use a third-party soft phone or to program a third-party device, this is one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to get that set up. The other thing it's used for is to send a fax out. So on Dash, you don't actually have to log into your Dash account to send a fax out. You do need to use your email, right? So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, instead of saying, putting your cousin Bob's email address there, you would put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the little @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Right? The system is not going to look for or not going to use any of the information in the to field or the subject line. Sorry. It will use the to field. It will not use the subject line or the body of the email. Right? It's looking at the to field. It's looking at the from field. It's looking at the attachment. Only one attachment. You do want to make sure it's a PDF or a TIFF. Up here, we have caller ID. This is actually your main company caller ID. This pull down lets you select any of your main numbers, right? In that box here to the right. So you choose any from the pull down here. Now the company caller ID name, this is optional. This allows you to enter 15 characters. That includes spaces or special characters in this box here to the right. And we then transmit this information as part of your outbound caller ID. Then we have the company emergency information, or E911. This wants a North American address. And that just means if this is the default address the system will use for your VoIP devices, if someone picks up a VoIP phone and dials 911. Right, that's the address that gets transmitted to emergency services. Once you click on Save Changes, this information gets updated. Now, if you did enter information here under the company caller ID name, this information gets transmitted to the other carriers that support this feature. It takes them approximately 3 business days to update their servers. That's the average. Usually it's faster than that. Now, some things to know about the CNAME feature, right? This company caller ID name. Not every carrier supports it. So it's possible when you pick up a VoIP phone and make an outbound call, your call can route through a carrier that does not support CNAME. That means your CNAME information does not reach the destination. The main concern that people run into these days is the fact that the cell phone carriers do not participate in CNAME at all. In fact, most of them that I'm aware of, they actually want to charge their subscribers in order to participate in CNAME, right? So my carrier, I researched this and found out they wanted to charge $10 a month in order to have company names show up on my inbound calls to my cell phone. Personally, I think they get enough of my money, so I chose not to get that feature. And I'm pretty sure that's a common reaction for most people. So just bear in mind, when you're calling a cell phone, the odds are that your company name information will not show up to the person you're calling unless they've programmed your phone number into their device manually. All right, the hold music button here, this allows you to upload your own media file to be used as hold music. Now, Dash will allow you to upload .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files. You'll want to make sure they're recorded in mono and that they're under 1 megabyte in file size. And recording in mono will help you keep that file size down. One thing to know is when the system refers to hold music, that means after a call has come into your system and reached one of your users, right? Your user then presses hold on their VoIP device. That is when this hold music file will play. So you would just click upload here, find the file on your device, click on the up arrow icon to the right of it, and then click on Save Changes once it finishes uploading. Now, hours here is actually part of main number. So we'll go ahead and click on main numbers. Up at the top, you got main company numbers, right? So these are those 5 main numbers I have on my account. Now, if I decide I don't want to use one any longer, I can simply unassign, right? Click on unassign, and now it's no longer a main number. It's still on my account. So it still counts towards my allotment, but it's currently a spare number, so I can reuse it someplace else. Now, you notice down here at the bottom, I have 2 options of add from spare numbers or buy numbers, right? Add from spare numbers, any place you see that, that means you're reusing a phone number, right? If you click on here, you'll see your list of spare numbers, right? So numbers you're not currently using that you could then put in place. So we can put that 703 number back in place here, right? And now it's a main number, right? Any place you see buy numbers, that means you're adding a brand new number, right? When you click on buy numbers, you have a choice of local and toll-free. Toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with, click on search, and the system will display a list of phone numbers. If you continue to scroll down, the list will increase. Any phone number you like, you just click on add, and you click on buy numbers. Now, Something to keep aware of is this list of phone numbers is a dynamic list, meaning you're actually competing with other people in real time, at least potentially. So if I just left this number in my cart right here, and let's say my boss says, hey, we got a meeting, get in here now, right? I obviously listen to my boss and jump into the meeting. If I come back from this meeting, let's say it's an hour later, it's possible that this number I added to my cart was actually picked up by somebody else. So when I click on by numbers, it won't go through. So once you know there's a number you like, or multiple numbers, because you can add multiple, click on by numbers. Now, what the system does, it verifies that the number was truly available, meaning i.e. someone didn't take it while I was talking. The odds of this are very small, by the way. But you come here, and the system says, yes, it's activated, and you see here it was added to my account. In this case, directly as a main number. If I click here for local numbers, you need to know the area code that you want a phone number in. Right? If you click on search, even on the toll-free numbers, you can get this message. Right? This just means that particular area code, in this case 310, is exhausted, meaning there's no readily available phone numbers in this area code. Now 310 is a Los Angeles-based area code. I only know it because of my sister. And right, it's just exhausted, right? Now LA, big metropolitan area, it's worth Googling to check if there are other area codes. In this case, I know that area code 424 is what's called an overlay area code for 310. That just means 310 and 424, they share the same geographic boundaries as far as phone numbers are concerned, right? They cover the same cities and the same neighborhoods, right? For larger metropolitan areas, it's worth Googling the area codes because you might also see your nearby area codes that may work for you versus just looking for an overlay. But then you can, same process, right? You click add next to the number, you click by numbers, system verifies that it was truly available and then adds it to your account. And this one's taking a little while. Now, if you really need a phone number that's in one of the exhausted area codes, you can email our porting team, right? porting@virtualpbx.com. Let them know the area code you want and or if there are specific cities that you want, and they can do a search to see if there's something else available. Now, also places where you have phone numbers, you have this little gear icon here. So here you can update the caller ID information, right? So you can update the outbound CNAM information, and as importantly, you can turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM information, right? And that would be transmitted to your staff members, so it show up on their phones. E911, you can set up the E911 address for each phone number individually. This then allows you to assign your VoIP devices to different phone numbers for E911 specifically, so that way you can have the correct address for your staff members if they need to dial 911 from their VoIP phones, right? So if you have people in multiple places, this allows you to do that. A prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right? So in this case, if someone dials this particular number, the word sale shows up as part of the inbound caller ID. So that way your staff member is, oh, this is about the sale we're having. I'm going to go ahead and unassign these extra numbers I just added. All right. Next up, we have office hours strategy. You have a choice of being open 24/7 or setting your own custom office hours. If you do this each day of the week, put a check mark that you're open and select your open hours from these pull downs in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, you have your option of saying you're closed for lunch. If you are, put a check mark and then select your lunch hours in that same 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes. Next, we have office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then to the right, you have the option here to add holidays. You have single day, date range, and advanced. When you click on one of these, it creates a new row, right? You just need to give it a name. So New Year's Eve, select the month and the date, save changes. Right? That date range option, right? Like I have here for Christmas break, you give it a name, start date, end date, right? Save changes. Now, there's no year indicator. So as a precaution, we recommend against having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just to prevent any kind of weird system behavior, especially when on that kind of holiday where you may not be uh, aware of it or active on it right away. Then here, Thanksgiving, I have set up as an advanced option, right? So I gave it a name, I chose the month. Now this second pull down, which unfortunately does not work on my software, or my streaming software, I should say, you have the options for first through fifth, as well as last. And then the third pull down, you choose a day of the week. Click on Save Changes. All right, here is incoming call handling. So for those main numbers I have up here at the top, how do I want my system to handle those calls during my open hours, during my lunch hours, my after hours, as well as during my holidays? All right, the options are basically the same. Now, the first three options will always appear for customers, right? This fourth option only shows up under a couple circumstances. The first is if your plan includes multiple auto attendants and you made one of those attendants available in main menu, or if our services team and you determined that you needed to have an advanced call flow created, in which case that could then show up here as well. Now this first option here, right? During my open hours, I have calls coming into my virtual receptionist. This is a link. So let me click on that. Opens up this new window. On the left is my main menu. This is what people can press on their phones to navigate through the phone system. 1 for sales, 2 for support, sort of thing. Now, down here at the bottom left, right, I have the option here to add route. When I click on that, it creates a new row. Now, this pull down, I have a 0 through 9, as well as the star key and the default action. Right? This pull down is where you want it to go. So if we click up here, right, directory, right, Smart PBX directory, dial by name directory. You can set it to a specific user, right? So you want menu option 1 to go to, Bob. You can scroll further down. Call queues. So if you're making use of the feature ACD queues, right, they would show up here. Groups are departments. They're an included feature. Queues are an upgrade feature, right? So there's a cost associated with them. Groups and queues are related. Groups are simple in terms of routing options. Queues are a little bit more complicated. You can send a menu option to a specific phone, right? Specific device. So it rings just that phone. Right? If that phone doesn't have voicemail built into it, then you're relying on the inbound caller to stay on hold or hang up. You also have the option to go, a menu option, go directly to a voicemail box, right? So press 0 to leave a message. Kind of option there. Media, you can have a media file play. Usually this is done for like hours of operation or directions. However, once the media file plays, the call ends. And then you have my advanced call flows. This would be for things like sub-menuing. Right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. And then those two options, right, have their own menus beneath those, right, and their own greetings in the appropriate language. Then here to the right, we have my greeting options, right? The greeting is where you say thank you for calling. It's also where you give instructions to your inbound caller in terms of how to navigate through the system. Text-to-speech, you type in the greeting that you want the system to say. You click update, save, and save changes. It's a computerized robotic voice. The text is not unlimited. You're limited to 250 characters, not counting spaces, not words, right? So it's not a very long text-to-speech greeting. Also, when the system saves your text-to-speech greeting, it gives it a generic name. Since we're in our open hours, the system will call this text-to-speech greeting my main open hours menu TTS. Let's say I call in and I don't like the sound of it, or I forgot a menu option, so I edit this greeting. I click update, save, and save changes. Now I'm going to have two files called main open hours menu TTS. So if you make use of text-to-speech greetings, I do recommend after you create one, on the left-hand side of the dashboard, click on the greetings tab, and then find that main menu, main open hours menu TTS, or after hours or lunch hours, etc. Rename it to something, right? Like main greeting one or main open one, something just so you know this is the first one you did, right? And that way, when it comes to any pull down options, you'll know what it is when you see it. You can upload your own file. In this box here, you can enter what you want to, how the file to name to display in the dashboard. Right, click on choose file to find the file on your computer. And then click update. That's going to upload it directly to the system, save and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. You should notice here I've made open hours menu TTS. This pull down will show you every media file on the account. Main greetings, voicemail greetings, hold music files. So that's why you want to have names you can easily recognize which, what file is which. You can record your main greeting over the phone. Now, as a security feature, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone that you have added to the account already, right? Because it knows it's registered, so it knows, oh, this is a device already on the account. It's safe to use. If you instead want to use like your cell phone or your landline, what you want to do is come down here under settings, and then where it says allow outside recording, click that to on. Right, now you can call in from your cell phone and record your main greeting over the phone. Right, the reason this is off as a security feature is they don't want random people trying to change your main greeting on you. Set these back to default. Now, all right, you dial your main number, and then here it will ask you to enter the PIN number. Now, if you just signed up with us, if you called your main number right off the bat, the system will tell you the greeting for this menu has not been set up yet, and then we'll ask you for the PIN number. Right, you enter the PIN number, it will then walk you through recording it over the phone. If you have a greeting already in place, so let's say you have main greeting 1, and you call in during my open hours, I can still enter this PIN number. The system will recognize it and then prompt you in terms of, and walk you through recording a new main greeting over the phone. Now, when I do it that way, right, the system doesn't allow you to choose a file name for the recording that you just did over the phone. It just reuses the file name that's in place. So main greeting 1, whatever I had there originally, that content is gone and replaced with what I just recorded. Still using the same file name. That's kind of important since we're coming up on holidays and sometimes people get in a rush, and that can end up causing you to lose your normal main greeting that you use for most of the year. This PIN number is only good for this time of day, right? So this is my main open hours. That means this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So my system is set up here for 9 to 5. So if I call in at 7 p.m. and I try to enter this PIN number, the system treats it as an invalid entry. It's like, that's not valid. Don't know what it is. All right, here we got professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you can order a greeting from them. They have their own billing, right? They ask you for credit card information. They have their own packages, but they basically will deliver to you via email, so then you can just upload your own file. All right, settings. First up, we have number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Right. Now, your inbound caller automatically has 1 attempt. Right. So you could set this to 0, which means they get the 1 chance, and then that's it. Right. You can enter, 1, 5, whatever. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for additional button presses before it assumes the inbound caller is done, right? So caller calls in and presses number 7. Well, that's not one of my main menu options because I have 0 through 4 plus the default action. So in this case, it's going to wait for 1 second to see if there's an additional button press, meaning like someone's trying to enter a multi-digit extension. And they go, oh, okay, that's it. No menu option 7, no extension 7. Since there's no retry option, the system will then send the caller to the default action. Right? If I had a retry set to 1, for instance, then the main greeting would play a second time. The person could then enter another menu option and then would go to the default action. Now, if I click X next here, right, that's removing a menu option. So now if I don't have a default action, the inbound caller calls in, hits 7, and that's it, the system will say, we did not recognize your entry, and then say goodbye. Okay, we already covered outside recording. So allow dialing extensions, by default, this is on, right? And all that means is if someone knows the extension number they're trying to reach and they enter it in properly, the system will recognize it and transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only use these menu options. Everything else is an invalid entry. And then here we have to suppress the playing of invalid entry, right? So if I don't want that message of the system saying, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, I can turn that on, and now that message will no longer play. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or these settings, you want to click Save here. It takes you back to your incoming call handling. You want to click Save Changes here. You're clicking Save twice. All right, lunch hours. Again, you can have different routing. In this case, this is the second option here is the live operator answer option, meaning in this case, I'm offering calls to my front desk group, right? So call comes in, staff members' phones are ringing, right? I'm giving an opportunity for my staff to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up, then I'm sending the call to the virtual receptionist. Now, this is my lunch hours menu, so I have a different set of routing. I likely have a different greeting in place, and you can even have different settings here. Back here, right, this is a pull down. So most people choose to send it to a user, right, specific person, a call queue, or a group, right, because that's groups and queues are probably most often chosen, just because typically that means you have multiple people who are being offered a call. You could send it to a specific device. In this case, it's only offered for 20 seconds, and then it's going to move on to the virtual receptionist. You could do not use voicemail boxes. Not sure why that's there. You could send it to a media file, although I recommend against that, just because after the media file is done playing, it sends it to the virtual receptionist, and then your main greeting plays. So that could be confusing to your inbound callers. After hours here, I have calls being offered to Aaron. If he doesn't pick up, then it goes to the main voicemail box. Now, this has similar kinds of options, right? Users, groups, queues, etc. There's one extra one, however, which is skip to voicemail. So basically calls come in, they go straight to voicemail box, right? Which for after hours kind of makes sense. Holidays, typically what I see for a lot of customers, I see then do the skip to voicemail here for holidays. This fourth option, this allows you to set the inbound callers to go to one of your secondary auto attendants or advanced call flows. If you don't have those options, this won't even show up. Main conference number, you can add from spare or by new numbers, right? So if you have multiple conference room numbers, they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. And then here you have the option for custom greeting. This is actually a text-to-speech greeting. You would turn it on and type in what you wanted to say. Again, 250 characters, not counting spaces. And then click on save. Even if I left that disabled, when I call this 408 number, the system will say, welcome to the conference. and then prompting to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The main fax box, you can add the one main number, so that's why, or main fax box number, excuse me. That's why I don't have the options here to add from spare or by new. I do have the option here to edit the fax box. The inbound notification email, you put in an email address here. This email address, right, will get an email every time a fax comes through, right? They'll have the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, and an attachment in PDF that they can view the fax document. Now, if someone dials your main fax box number, let's say from their cell phone, they hear fax tones, and most people would hang up at that point. Mark here is still going to get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. In that situation, right, the email still will have the date and the time, the phone numbers involved. So if it's a phone number and it shows, like, it will show some information about the caller ID, right? So if it shows up like wireless caller, you know that was a misdial. You don't have to worry about it. But if it's a phone number you recognize or that you're expecting a fax from, then you want to reach out to that person to find out what happened on their side. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's available on some plans and not others. This allows you to create secondary attendance, and there's a couple of most common use cases. The first I've already touched on, which is submenuing, right? That one for English, two for Spanish, where you have successive menus going further down, right? So like you can also do like press one for support, you get the support. You know, you can have another set of menus beneath that saying, you know, to get billing support, please press 1. That would go to yet another attendant, and they can have billing options there, etc. The other use case is if you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, you would obviously want them on the same hours of operation, etc. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. The extension number, only your staff would ever really use, and that literally means that your staff members can transfer from their VoIP phones, they can transfer callers from one business to another, right, if they're on the same account. Once you create an attendant here, you can click on its name. By default, it shows up as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, i.e. second business, right? So Poochwalk here is a different business than what I have set up under my main number. So I left it as unavailable. I can click on that and make it available in main menu if I want it to, right? And then I click on Save Changes. And that's what I did here for Spanish, right? So I said, oh, it's available in main menu because that's a submenu option. Your auto attendants can have their own phone number or phone numbers, right? You can always add from spare or buy new. You have the little gear icon for caller ID, prepend, and etc. You can always change the extension number, right? Just click on Add Extension and enter in a new extension number, click Save Changes, and then click on this box again and unassign the original, or let it have multiple extension numbers. And then you have a little wrench icon here under Settings. Right, see, I have open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. This matches what I set up under my main number. So this business, right, Poochwalk, has to have the same hours of operation as my primary business. If that isn't the case, let's say I have one business that's 24/7 and another that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you definitely want to talk to our account services team to see what your options are, right? It's possible you could still have them both on the same account. It just depends on how often you're going to be changing things, right? It's like if you're going to set up one and not even change it, like you're not going to change the greetings or anything like that, you can probably have them set up on the same account. That would just be an advanced configuration. But they may need to, or the best option may also be have multiple accounts, but usually at that kind of situation, they'll see about adjusting pricing. All right, Devices tab shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, meaning we can't send a call to it. Black means you've turned it off, right? So you're just currently disabled. Green means it's registered, excuse me, so we can send calls to it. Now, the unregistered, right, that could be for like a cell phone device. People aren't logged in, right? Or, for a physical phone, it's not plugged in right now. Could also be they're having a network problem or their ISP is having an issue. Now, up here at the top, you can click Add Device. SIP phone, this is that physical hardware. You find the manufacturer. Some have a lot of models, right? And you can use this as your basis for shopping, right? Some only have a few. Right? So find the make and model of the phone you're going to work with, right? Then you need to give it a name, right? Becky's phone, right? Break room phone. And then you need to enter the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device, typically a sticker on the back of the phone, or if the phone's plugged in, usually under like status settings or basic settings, will show up there. You enter that information here. You click on Create Device. After that, you click on the little wrench icon here. Go to Advanced, and then Miscellaneous, and click Unlock next to Allow Reprovision. Right. Then, after you click Save Changes, you go to Users and assign that device to a user. Now, in terms of the dashboard, that's all you need. However, you would need to go into the phone's web user interface. Excuse me. And enter in a URL, basically under the auto provisioning section, telling the phone, hey, go here, get your config file. The phone will do that. It's going to reboot a couple of times, show up as a green device. For the specifics of that URL and where to go for the various manufacturers, you want to go to our support pages and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots of from the various manufacturers here. It's going to show you the proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, a couple different settings to change. Cell phone and landline are the same in terms of you give it a name, and then you enter the number, right? +1 area code and phone number. No dashes, spaces, or parentheses. I'm going to click down here on this one here. So this is the proper format here. When we go to advanced options, this is the default setup for a cell phone or landline. So call comes in to dash. We then send it out to your cell phone, right? Your cell phone rings, you pick up. You're going to hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call. Right? That's perfectly fine if it's actually going to your cell phone. But let's say, for instance, you have hired an automated answering service. Right? They gave you a phone number saying, hey, just send your calls here, and we'll handle your after-hours calls. That automated answering service, right? You could add it here as a device, right? You would just give, an automated answering service. You would put the number here, save changes. However, you do want to come here because the automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1, right? So what you would want to do is under this first option here, put a check mark, right? Allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is when we send a call to this phone number, as soon as we hear a pickup tone, we connect the call, right? There's no message about being a forwarded call and pressing 1. There's no need to press 1 because as soon as we hear that pickup tone, call connected. If this is actually your cell phone and you have this checked, that means it's possible that your cell phone voicemail can pick up, right? That's a pickup tone. We connect the call. So that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Another thing that comes up here is keep original caller ID. So say customer Mary calls into your system, gets out to your cell phone. On your cell phone, you see customer Mary's phone number. You don't recognize it, and you're tired of all the political calls or you're sending your auto warranty calls. So you let it go to voicemail. Maybe you're able to link back up with Mary, maybe not. If you uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number show up on your cell phone, you would see your main number. Right? We're going to go back to the dashboard. Right? This phone number, whatever you selected here on this pull down, that will be the phone number that shows up on your cell phone in that scenario. Soft phone, right? Little warning message here. And here it's on the devices page, you can only add a third-party soft phone, meaning you're adding a, a soft phone from, like say, from Counterpath, right? That's a company that makes soft phone applications. You can't, on the devices page, you're not able to add the VirtualPBX soft phone. You have to do that directly on the user's page. But here, you give it a name. You would want to copy the SIP username and paste that someplace. Under SIP password, you want to click on the box here, copy and paste that. You do not want to change it. And then copy the realm. Those are the three pieces of information you would need to program that third-party application or device. Now for software, so for any soft phones, I'll click on this one here, even though it's currently off. Under advanced audio, you typically want to make sure Opus is the codec in place. G711A and G711U, those are good for use with hardware, right? So if this soft phone was actually for a third-party device, for instance, then G711A, G711U are fine. The other thing to be aware of, your emergency caller ID, right? So this is where you could select whatever other phone numbers you have set up with E911. So that way, this person's device would have the correct address for their location. All right, greetings manager shows all the greetings on your account, right? Shows you got their name field. The source, you have upload, meaning you uploaded the file. TTS means text to speech. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. This column here, right? You can play back and listen to the greeting file. Make sure it's relevant. If for some reason that works, you have the download option here. So you can download the file to your computer. This I would also recommend before you make any changes to your greetings, right? Download the original greeting so you have it someplace safe, especially for anything you record over the phone. Edit, if you click on the little wrench icon, that allows you to change the name of the file or just get rid of it completely if you don't need it anymore. Groups is short for ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments. Up here at the top, you click on add group, you give it a name and an extension number. You click and drag your staff members who are in the group to the right. Click on create group, will then show up here in this list. Click on the name, right? You can always change the name at any time. But you also have this group call attempts. This is how many times the system offers calls to the group members. Little arrows here to the far right in this box so you can increase or decrease it as necessary. You also have the option to delete the group if you no longer need it. Otherwise, click on Save Changes. Then we got the members box here. Shows all your staff members in this group. Now along the top, this is the timestamps for the total ring time in the group. Now, right now I have everyone set to 0, meaning they may get one ring and then the system will go to its next action or end the call. I can click distribute, however, and so now my calls are ringing in this order. So every time a call comes into this group, it's going to ring Bob first, then Adam, then Peter, etc. These are sliders, so I can adjust them like so if I want to. Right, let's say I want to change the order. Let's say Bob's got a big project. I can click and drag his name down. I can drag David up to the top. Now, I haven't changed the order because Bob's still at 0 seconds. But then I can click distribute, and now David's first. Bob's at the end. The other thing that sometimes comes up is you can set up what's called blast ringing or ring all. Right, so everyone rings for the same amount of time for the whole time. Right, and that way, basically gives you more people to answer the call quickly, right? So if I went back to distribute, let's say David has, gets the first call, right? He's helping the customer. When the second call comes in, it's still offered to David, right? So if he has call waiting enabled on his device, he'll hear a call waiting beep, right? Up until, what's that, 24 seconds? At that point, then Adam's phone will start ringing, right? So that means my second caller had to wait 24 seconds before it can actually get to someone who can help him, right? So that's why you would want to have multiple people uh, have start times at 0 or at the same start times. Groups can have extension numbers, right? Actually, you have to as part of the creation process. You can add additional extension numbers if you want to. Groups can also have their own phone numbers. Now, one thing to keep in mind about phone numbers on a group, right? This phone number is not a main number or an auto attendant number. That means it does not have hours of operation. So it's available 24/7. Right? And if you have group members using their personal cell phones, they can get calls from the group in the middle of the night. And then we have the group features box. Ring back. So when calls get offered to the group and your staff members' phones start to ring, that ringing sound is piped back to your inbound caller, right? Ring back. If you want something else to play instead of that ringing sound, you would click enable here under ringback and then upload a media file. .wave.mp3 recorded to mono under 1 megabyte. Click on save changes. Now, let's say you're only offering it to one person, let's say Bob, and his phone does not ring. Let's say instead he gets a busy tone, right? That's not a ringing sound coming back through the system, so nothing will play, right? Yet another reason why to have multiple people. Oops, not mean to do that. All right, next action, to me, this is the most important group feature. Click to enable. If no one answers, what do you want the system to do with the call? And this pull down, you can send callers to a voicemail box. You can send it to another user, a different group, an ACD queue. You can send it back to your main menu. All right, and then you would click on save changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your staff members are able to make use of call forwarding, so they can send calls to a different device. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You know, either additional text or numbers show up in front of the caller ID. Next up, we have the numbers tab. It starts you off in numbers in use, right? Shows where you're using your numbers. You can't unassign them here or assign them here. However, you can get to the gear icon so you can update caller ID, E911, and prepend. The spare numbers tab over here on the left shows your numbers that you're not currently using. If you wanted to remove a number, this is where you would do it, right? Or delete it from your account. So you would click on the box in front of the phone number, and you notice up here, now I have the option to delete. And let's get rid of a couple of these numbers because I apparently have quite a few. All right, and then I can delete. I confirm the deletion, and now I have 3 less phone numbers on my account. Right, by numbers, right, local and toll free, that would just add more spare numbers here, right, for later use. Port starts the port process, meaning you're moving a number from, say, Comcast to VirtualPBX or AT&T, et cetera, right? From some other carrier. You start on new port request, you give it a name, say US local or toll free, click next. Now the system wants you to upload a PDF copy of your bill dated within the last 30 days. It's going to ask you for the address and the phone numbers that you want ported. It's going to let you download a blank letter of agency or LOA. You can then upload a completed and signed version of that LOA and then submit. Once you click submit, you'll get an email from the system saying, hey, you've submitted your port request. Usually by the next business day, you get a second email from our porting team, right? Actual person saying, yes, we did get your port request. Here's what to expect, right? Or if there was a problem, let's say the LOA you submitted wasn't signed, right? They would say, hey, we need a signature on this LOA. Please send us a signed version. For that signature, right? A digital signature is fine, right? But typing in your name twice, not going to work. Or typing it and then printing your name, not going to work. It does need to look like a signature. Typically speaking, toll-free numbers take 3 to 5 business days to complete if everything is correct. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks, although they can be faster. If we get a rejection, it's not always specific, meaning that we'll get like address mismatch, but they don't always tell us if it's because the street number is wrong or the zip code was wrong. They just say address mismatch. For things like that, we double check, right? Make sure we didn't have a typo anywhere, or especially for the address, where it's possible you may have had 2 addresses, right? One for your physical location and where the bill is sent to. We try them both, right? If we get rejections on both, and then we say, hey, here's what we tried. We're getting rejections. You need to confirm with the current carrier what they're looking for to port out. All right, users. Shows all your users on the account. Little gray icon person, right? That's a standard user. Person with the blue suit, system admin. Up here at the top, you click add user and you fill out the form, right? First name, last name, pretty easy. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user, right? You cannot reuse email addresses. You then create a password for the person, and then you can enter in the extension number you want to use. The system here is recommending extension 1018 because this started with extension 1000. I can enter in something else instead. Create a voicemail box for the user. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user and created at the same time. For instance, if you create the user and leave that checked, you can add a VoIP phone to them right away, and they can pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98. That will log them directly into the voicemail box you created for them. And then the system will prompt them to create a PIN number for their voicemail box and then walk them through setting up their voicemail greeting. Right? Basically helps get that user set up and ready to go. Include in the user directory. You can change this at any time. This is send emails to an alternate address. So by default, if the system needs to send a message to your users, it uses the email address used for login, right? For like things like voicemail notifications or password resets. If you need to go to a different address, then you would check this one here, this box here, and enter in that different email address. Right? If it's okay going to the email address used for login, then you don't need to do anything here. And then lastly, I think it should be checked, send credentials to the user. Once you click on create user, right, the system creates the user completely, but then sends an email to that user saying, welcoming them to their Dash account and gives them the login information. Now, that also will happen if you have create user and add another, meaning you have to add multiple users. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Whoops. Right, you can change their name. Here, you can change their credentials, right, their email address or their password. You can also send them the password reset email. Right, here you can change their voicemail box PIN number, just needs to be 4 digits. Here's the option to be sent to alternate address. Here's your option to be in or out of the user directory. Now this pull down here, over here to the right, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Little clock here, this allows you to adjust the time zone for the user, right? So that way, like their voicemail timestamps have the correct time for them. Little flag icon, this allows you to change the display language for the web pages for that user. English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout, measured in seconds. This is the default amount of time the system will ring that user's devices. 20 seconds, typically plenty of time. If you have a user only using a cell phone, you probably want to increase this to 30 seconds. There's a user feature called Follow Me that can change this as well. All right. Users can have multiple extensions. They can have their own phone numbers. Buy from new, or add from spare, buy new. Just like in groups, right? This phone number is available 24/7. For users, you can add devices directly to the user. Right, it's basically the same. Now, for soft phone, I don't know if it's going to work on this one because he already has a soft phone. Never mind. Wrong user. Let's add a soft phone here. You still get the warning message, but on the user page, this is where you would want to add the VirtualPBX soft phone app. Right down here at the bottom, it says use third-party application. You click on that to flip it to say use VirtualPBX application. Now, this message is just telling me that the email address associated with this user already has a soft phone from VirtualPBX. So we can't create another one. But for most of you, that's not a problem, right? This is just user. But so this morning message wouldn't come up. You would just give it a name and then click on create device and then save changes. Once you click save changes, in this case, Bob would get an email saying your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready, and it'll give him his login information for use with the soft phone app. You can also add the web phone directly to a user since that uses the staff member's login information, right? The dash login, same information that the web phone uses. So you'd want to add it directly to a user. Group features. The caller ID number only works on a user with their own phone number. You click on, you choose the phone number on the user and save changes. And what that means is this 702 number becomes Bob's outbound caller ID from his VoIP phones. Right? If I turned it back off, then it would be my main company number that is set up under the dashboard. Virtual text is a newer feature. You click enable, you choose a phone number. Right? Now that phone number needs to be either assigned to the user or main number or auto attendant number. You click on save changes. Bob would then get an email welcoming him to virtual text, and then he can then text from his phone number. Virtual text also allows you to share phone numbers among staff members. So for your main number, for example, that way you have multiple people keeping track or communicating via text with your customers. Voicemail box, this is enabled on the user by default. This is a default settings. Transcription is technically a plan-specific feature, and all it is the system listens to the voicemail message that is left and types it out as part of the email notification. Does the best that it can, right? If the people aren't speaking into their microphone or a lot of background noise is picked up, that's going to impact how accurate that transcription is. But by default, the system says, enables voicemail to email and attaches the voicemail message to the email notification. Right? Like this, your user has 3 ways to check their voicemail messages. Right? First, via email, right? They'll get the email, they can click on the MP3 attachment and listen to it. They can call in over the phone and listen to the voicemail messages over the phone. Right? They just need their voicemail box number and their PIN number. And they can also check via their user portal. Right? They can listen to them directly to the portal. They can delete them, etc. You can also delete messages when you're listening to them over the phone. Now, the comment about deleting messages is because voicemail boxes can only hold up to 100 messages. After that, the voicemail box is full and will not accept any more until voicemail messages are deleted. You also have the option here to delete the voicemail messages after that notification email is sent. Right? So that means the voicemail box will not be full. However, that limits your user to only being able to ever check their voicemails via the email. So if for some reason emails aren't getting delivered to them, they might be losing voicemail messages. Follow me. This is a user feature for people with multiple devices. This is basically how it looks. You tell the system which phones to make use of, and then you can use the sliders. You can also click distribute, just like in groups, right? You can change the order. You have a timestamp here you can change. Now, once you click Save Changes, right, those changes are saved. However, if Aaron here is part of one of my ring groups, right, under groups, over here on the left, the system calls from the groups will ignore the follow me feature, right? So both his phones would ring at the same time. I get that, which would be one way to let him know that, oh, this is a group call versus a call coming to my user. Faxbox users, you can choose to have users have their own fax box by enabling it. You select whether you're adding a new number or using a spare number. You can also assign an extension. I don't recommend assigning an extension. I always recommend using a phone number. That way this person can send and receive faxes. If you just select an extension number, they can only ever receive faxes. Also, you're relying on the person who's faxing in to be able to send to faxes, right? Not all like electronic fax services allow you to fax to an extension number. And even for the analog fax machines, the person's faxing needs to know how to do it. Whether that means they're, standing over the fax machine, listening in, and then entering the extension number at the appropriate time, or like, phone number, comma, extension number. Conference bridge, you just click on this to enable, and then you would just need to enter in a PIN number and then save changes. The enable video conferencing, that's just within your Dash staff members. Anyone outside of the system will not be able to make use of video conferencing anyway. Call forwarding, you have a couple options. Now, turning it off or on, your users can do themselves. They can either do it via the user portal, or if they have a VoIP phone, they can do it directly from the VoIP phone. Failover mode is something you would need to set up. This basically comes into play when the system detects that the user's VoIP phone becomes unregistered, and a call comes in the user at that time. The system will automatically forward the call to this phone number that you designated, right? +1 area code and phone number, no parentheses, dashes, or spaces. And then you would click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this. You just need to tell the system what kind of calls you're recording. Inbound internal, that would be a coworker call, right? So coworker Bob called Aaron. Inbound external, customer Mary called Aaron. Right? Outbound external means Aaron called coworker Bob. Right? Outbound external means Aaron called customer Mary. You could have all four enabled, only one, etc. Then click on Save Changes. Your account includes at least some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you were recent sign up, I would just check the pricing page. Otherwise, you'd want to talk to our account services team. If you have a heavy call volume and you're recording every call, you definitely want to talk to our account services about enabling AWS integration. And that assumes you have an AWS account. That way you can have your call recording stored at AWS, which is typically going to be cheaper than with us, especially if you have high call volume. Right? Like if you're at 100 calls a month, you may not need to do that. But if you're 1,000 calls a month, that's probably in the range where you're going to want to at least consider using AWS. Music on hold, when you click enable, you can upload hold music specific to the user or like a group of users, right? Let's say, for instance, you want your sales team to have one set of hold music talking about current promotions, whereas you want your billing user, like your billing staff members, right, to have different hold music talking about the different ways to update their billing or go to a particular site for more information. Do not disturb. When you enable that, that means this user is not accepting calls, right? Any call to them will go to voicemail. If they're in a group, their phones won't ring. Hot desking, when enabled, this is a VoIP phone feature. You enter a hot desk ID, you click on Save Changes. This is for use like in a shared office environment or with even hybrid scheduling. Aaron comes to the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone there, hits *11. That turns on hot desking. It will then prompt him to enter his hot desk ID, and then it will tell him calls will now be sent to this device. End of his day, he hits *12 to turn off hot desking. Next time he comes in the office, Angela's sitting at desk number 2. He says good morning. He moves on. He sits down at desk number 8. Same thing, picks up the phone, hits *11. enter his hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to him at desk number 8. Voicemail boxes, this shows your voicemail boxes on the account. If you click on the little wrench icon, you can see their voicemail box number and their PIN number. So you can listen to them over the phone or adjust the voicemail greetings. Any user or any voicemail box that has entry here under the user column, right? That was a user created voicemail box, right? Created at the same time the user was. Up here at the top, you can create your own voicemail boxes for use for like with your groups or your queues. Just give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and then click on create voicemail box. Once a voicemail box is created, right, you want to go to advanced and go to greeting media. The media file is the default message that plays, right? There be your normal out of office message or unavailable, right? You can upload .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. The temporary file, this is be your vacation or out of office message, right? So if you have something selected under temporary, whether you uploaded it or from the pull down, this will play, even if you have something selected in media. Once you turn temporary back to none, then whatever you have selected under media will play. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have one built-in recipient, the email address used for login. Any voicemail box you create manually, you'll want to click here where it says add new recipient and enter in at least one email address. If you need to add multiple, you just click on the add button, create a new row, enter the new email address. Once you're done, click on save changes. Then you come under options. So once you have a media file in place and a recipient in place, you can click on already set up. Up to you if you want to make sure attach emails, voicemails to email, as well as the delete after notification. And then click on save changes. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. This is not a feature that's enabled on new accounts on sign up, something you'd have to talk to our account services team about. What this does, it allows you to call into your system from, say, a cell phone or a landline, and then log in over the phone, and then make an outbound call. And when you make an outbound call, it's not your cell phone that shows up, right? It's your main company number. So once the services team has activated the feature on your account, you come here and enable it. The system automatically assigns a PIN number to you. If you leave it just like this, that means you need to create a menu option under your main number or your virtual receptionist or auto attendants. That goes to main DISA. That's one of your advanced call flows. However, I recommend you click on edit settings here and then click on add extension. Then here, add an extension number. That's not part of your normal sequence of extensions. You can change the PIN number at the same time if you want to. Then click on save changes. So now you can call into your system that goes, rings to your virtual receptionist or auto attendant numbers. And when you hear the main greeting, you enter the extension number. At that point, the system will prompt you for the PIN number. And then you'll hear dial tone. You enter the area code and phone number. You make an outbound call. The reason for using the extension number versus a menu option, right? Someone could hit the menu option by accident, even if you don't mention it in your main greeting. And some people would take that as a challenge. Right? Oh, there's a PIN number. Let me see if I can figure this out. And if they do figure it out, then they hear dial tone. Like not too much of a leap for someone to start trying to make outbound calls on your account, and you wouldn't know about it, at least not right away. Usually not until your bill, which could result in sticker shock. One way that you could keep track of that, though, is via the call logs. The call logs on your account, we can go through. You can see your call activity on the account. You can see here I have a yellow arrow to the left from Michael, and I see here that he used this device. So I know that was a legitimate outbound call. Right, I have this little green arrow to the right coming in. That's a call that came into the system. You see it rang to this device. Now, I see user busy, so that means whoever was calling in, right, whoever's device this is, right, they were already on a call. so they weren't able to pick up. So likely the inbound caller got the voicemail. Right? You typically want to see normal clearing as the reason. That lets you know that the call, as far as the system is concerned, the call ended normally. If you see something else, that could be an indication of potentially a carrier issue or like a network issue, right? So like we see a lot of recovery on time or expire errors. Like 95% of the time, that's a network related issue. Now, little fire hydrant icon here, this creates an email for you that goes to support@virtualpbx.com. It has the technical details of the call. I strongly encourage you to type in the context of why you're sending this information in, so that way our support team understands what the issue is. Sometimes we can tell by the technical details, but not always. Now, each one of these tabs, you can download a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can use that to gain more information about what's going on with your calls. The custom tab allows you to set your custom date range. So like I can do all of October, click on filter, and I have a lot of information there. Plus I can still download it. If you need your call log information for any kind of compliance reasons, I'd recommend you do that every month. The system lets you go back up to 12 months. Our engineering team can go back up to 18 months, so an additional 6. But after that, the call data is no longer available. Next up, we have feature codes. I've talked about a couple of these. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Now, this information is a web page on our support pages. There's also a document on our support pages called the phone command cheat sheet, which has the feature codes, but also how to use them, right? If you mouse over a little question mark icon there, they'll give you some additional information here as well. All right, so that's the dashboard. Let's go ahead and go next to blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching you. You click on edit blacklists. You click add if you don't already have a list, right? Or if you do, you just click on an existing list. Right? You give it a name, and then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? And if you turn it on, that means if a call comes in and does not have valid inbound caller ID, right? They block the caller ID number from showing up. They're not going to get through. They'll get busy tone, right? If I leave this off, that means they'll still be able to come through. Beyond that, I come down here, I click on add number. I put +1 area code and phone number, spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And I keep clicking add until I'm done adding phone numbers. Once I'm done, I click on save here. I go click on back to settings at the top right, and I make sure that list is over here on the right under selected. And then I click update. And now the phone numbers on these 3 lists, when they try to reach any of my phone numbers, they get a busy tone. Faxes, this goes to your fax manager. It's an included feature. You can get to any fax box on your account so you can see what faxes have come in. You see the date and the time, the phone numbers involved, number of pages. You can download the file. All right, outbound faxes, same idea. Now, when you see a failed one here, it says fax job timed out negotiated. So this means we actually dialed out to the other phone number, right? The other fax number. But when we made that connection, there was a problem. So then the fax failed, right? So any failure you see here means there was a problem with the other fax machine or the other fax number. Sometimes it just says failure, right? It won't give you this additional context. Other times you see things like user busy, right? The line was busy every time we tried. The system automatically tries to fax, when it tries to fax out, it attempts at least 3 times. We have the email to fax tab or email to fax log. If you see anything here, that means the system had a problem processing the request. You click on the little eyeball icon. You can see here under errors, no valid attachments. This could be because they forgot the attachment, or they tried to send something other than a PDF or TIFF file, like they tried to send a JPEG. All right, number manager, this just takes you back to your spare number page. Reports, this actually opens up a new tab, takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com. This is a plan-specific feature. It goes to our advanced reporting. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up properly here under my streaming software. However, under our YouTube channel, go to videos and do a search for advanced reporting demo, and that will show you some of the things that you can do. But basically, you can create your own reports. Get you some better insight about what's going on with your calls. The voicemail manager, and this is an included feature. You can go to any voicemail box on the account. And you can see if they have any messages. If there are messages here, right, you would see their status, right? They've been listened to, they're new, etc. The date, the time. You could listen to them. You can download them. As an admin, there'll be a little box in front that you can put a check mark. You can move a voicemail to a different voicemail box if necessary. Over here to the right, ACD queues. This is an upgrade feature. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. There are currently two kinds of queues available. What I show you here are our standard ACD queues. We also have ACD queues Pro. Accounts can only have one or the other, right? So I can only show you one. However, on our YouTube channel, there's a demo, right? ACD queues Pro demo. Take a look at that. That will show you the major differences between the two. Now, ACD queues, both types, they're an upgrade off of an existing plan. So it's possible that you may have to update your plan, right? Change plans, and then have the upgrade fee for the queues also. That's something you'd have to talk to our account services team about to verify. Now, on this page, you would click on create queue or add new queue. I'm just going to click on the gear icon here. You give the queue a name, right? And then the queue can have either a phone number or an extension. It does not have both. Now, it can still be a menu option, right, from your virtual receptionist. Queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, this pull down doesn't work. Round robin will equalize out over time. Least calls means whoever has the least amount of calls gets the next call. Most idle, whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. And then least offers, which is the combination of missed and connected calls. Right? Whoever has a lower count on that gets the next call. Hold treatment basically allows you to upload a media file, .wav, .mp3 recorded in mono. For the queues, you can upload a 5 megabyte file. Queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time your inbound caller can wait on hold. Right? So I'm saying 40 seconds. I can change this, right? I can change it to say 600 seconds. Queue call limit. This is an amount of people who can wait on hold. 0 means there's no limit. If I change this to 4, that means only, only 4 people can wait on hold. Now that is on top of whoever else is already speaking to my staff members. Right? So if 2 of my agents are speaking to staff to inbound callers, right, 4 more people can wait on hold for a total of 6. Timeout immediately if empty. This means if I have no staff members logged into the queue and a call comes into this queue, I'm telling the system to treat that caller as if they've already hit that 600-second timeout. The escalation call flow after timeout is a pull down here where I select what is the system going to do with the call after the hold time has expired, right? That's 600 seconds. So in this case, like I can send it to a voicemail box. Oops. Right, but you can select a user, another queue, a ring group. You can send them back to the main menu, etc. The zero out call flow, if you select something from the pull down, what you're doing is you're enabling the ability for your inbound callers to press 0 while they're on hold. Right, when they press 0, right, this pull down is, hey, where they're going when they press 0. You leave it on none, that means they can't press 0. Now, when you do enable this, right, so you select something from the pull down, the system does not tell the inbound caller that they can press 0, right? That would be something you would want to include in your hold music, or yeah, in the hold music file, so that way your inbound caller would know that exists as an option. Agent behavior. So agent recovery time measured in seconds, typically 0 to 30 seconds. This is how much time the system waits before it offers the agent a second call from the queue, right? So it gives your staff members a break, basically. Force away on reject or missed. If you enable this, that means if your staff member misses a call, the system will automatically put them in away mode until the user, right, your staff member, marks themselves as ready again. Agent connect timeout measured in seconds. The default is 20, and that is because the queues were originally designed to only accept calls with VoIP devices. We recently enabled the ability to accept calls from queues from landlines and cell phones, so you may need to increase that if you have users making use of cell phones or landlines, specifically cell phones. One thing to keep in mind is once a call has reached a cell phone or a landline, right, that's an endpoint. They are not able to transfer a caller. So right, transferring is only from a VoIP phone. All right, so once a queue is created, over here on the left, you click on the little members icon. Now here, this is the list of members I have made available or assigned as part of a queue, right? They may not, or assigned as a call center member, right? So they can be in my queues. They may not necessarily be assigned to my queues yet. For you, when you first get here, right, there'll be nothing here. You would just click on manage members, and then you would click on your staff members, and then click on add as selected. That moves them over here to the right, so they're now part of my call center group, right? So my staff members who can be assigned to queues. Then I would click over here back onto the queues icon, and say if I go to this queue here, I can click on add agents, right? And I can click and drag people over here to the right, right? And click on save changes. So now I've assigned 3 staff members. If I click on add managers, I can choose one of those 3, move them over to the right. Now that person is a manager. Right, so they have to be an agent first, and then you can make them be a manager. Once you have added staff members to queues, right, and assigned them to specific queues, right, they'll have this ACD queue icon here on the dashboard. Or for them, it'd probably be under the user. When they first log in, they would have ACD queues in user portal. But they would come here, click on begin session. Right, you see here now I'm in this queue. I'm currently marked away, right? So I'm not ready to take calls. That first time logging in, you should click on the little phone icon here and make sure you select a device, right? By default, it starts you on select all. That's not recommended. You definitely want to choose a specific device. Then click on the little phone icon again to remove it. Where it says away, click here, and then mark as ready. Now I'm ready to take calls, right? My bar is green. So any calls that come into this queue, since I'm the only one here, my phone will ring. Now, when I'm being offered a call, my little bar here turns light blue. When I'm on an actual inbound call, it turns a dark blue. If I'm on an external call, meaning I called someone, I called a customer back, or someone called my extension number directly, my bar turns yellow. And if I'm on rapid time, it turns gold. Right. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. Click edit here. So this rule, right, I called it 408 because what I did is I selected a 408 phone number on my account from this pull-down list, and I simply said, whenever my staff members dial a 408 phone number from their VoIP phone, automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 408 phone number I selected. Click on Save Changes. The other option you have here is I can create a feature code. So right here, I created this star 550. So my staff members need to dial star 550, right? Enter area code and phone number that they're reaching out to. When they do that, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. Right, so it looks like a local call to whoever they're calling, or at least in reasonably close to their region. Monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of or the presence of your staff members. It doesn't matter what phone they're using, right? VoIP phone, cell phone, soft phone, etc. It will show up here if they're on a call, right? As well as under my active calls, right? Each call would have a box here. If someone made use of the parking feature, then the parking spot number would show up under here as well. Recording Manager, this will open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Just use your dash login to log in. And that's where you would view your recordings, right? You would listen to them, download them, delete them. If you have AWS integration set up properly, then this would instead take you to your AWS site. So you can view your recordings there. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. You'd actually want to talk to our sales team about this. But this allows you to create rules or allows you to link your Dash account to other software. Zapier is the primary example. In fact, under our YouTube channel, we have an introduction to Zapier webinar you can take a look at. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com and see sample code of what we've done. And this is coding. Like our tier 1 staff and support would not be able to really help you troubleshoot the code. We'd actually have to get you with our account services team and our engineering team. And then lastly, there's the user portal. Every user has their own user portal. Right, so here they would see their own voicemails, right? So they can listen to them, download them, delete them. Call history, they can see the history of their calls. They can choose the date range. Right, click filter and see their call history. The fax tab only comes up for users that have their own fax box, so they can see their fax history. The contact list, this is view only, right? This just shows everything within the Dash account. Right, so I could see other users, extensions, or group extensions, auto attendance, etc. Conferences shows your conference tab. Over here on the right, this is where your staff members would update their conference room PIN numbers, right, for both participants and for themselves, for the moderator. And over also here, do people join deafened or muted? And are you playing entry and exit tones? When you're actually in a conference over here, the plus icon allows you to invite other Dash users to your conference, right? The lock icon, right? So you can lock a conference so no one else can join. Mute everybody, unmute everybody, hang up, meaning you end the conference. Also, when you're in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little box. So you can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. And then we have the settings and devices tab. Right here, that's where your staff members can enable call forwarding themselves. And just click the box here. But +1 area code and phone number, spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then they would click on save. And plus they can see there's other devices here. And that is everything. Haven't seen any questions come up in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.